welcome to the Carolina Snowflakes Podcast, where two Southerners come to terms with their liberal snowflake tendencies. We're your hosts. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jason. And we're here with this week's episode of the Carolina Snowflakes Podcast. This one is called Humorous Headlines, because this week had a plethora of headlines that reminded me of The Onion. I just saw a lot of headlines this week that made me chuckle and were just really funny.
Oh, yeah. There was multiple times this week where both of us were reading through the news and going, is this real life?
Yeah, is this real? I would text you a headline and be like, question mark? I don't know.
This happened?
So we selected some of our favorite headlines from this week that we just thought were just funny stories that happened. And we wanted to give our hand-selected, beautiful listeners a taste. The first headline I wanted to point out was from CNN, and the headline says, U.S. Navy wants to get crash stealth fighter back before China can. Which, from that headline alone, begs a million questions. Like, wait a minute. So we want to get... It's a stealth fighter, and we want to get it back before China can. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Yeah, what?
If you didn't know the story, it's pretty nuts. So what happened was there was a fighter jet. It's a F-35C fighter jet, which is like our most advanced stealth fighters that we have. They're about $100 million a piece. and
we're like, we got to get it back.
Yeah, and basically one of these jets... It crash landed on the aircraft carrier. Like he botched the landing. It didn't go well. If you've ever played Top Gun on the Nintendo, the original NES Top Gun, you know that it's very hard to land a plane on an aircraft carrier. It's almost impossible.
But they do it.
But this guy botched it. You know what I mean?
Messed up big time.
Didn't work out. So he slammed into the deck of the carrier, and then the plane was going too fast, so he ejected out of the plane and flew out his little ejector seat, and the plane just sort of went off the edge of
but the plane just kept going
of the aircraft carrier into the ocean. And aircraft carriers, if you don't know, are really big. This was actually a 100,000 ton aircraft carrier. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So they take a long time to turn around.
Yeah, it's not like the dude crashed the plane into the ocean and then the boat was like, oh, hold up, let's just stop and we'll just turn around real quick.
Yeah, that wasn't in the cards.
Right.
And this happened to be in the South China Sea, so a part of the ocean that is owned by China. So by the time the boat could, get wherever it was going, and they told the Navy what was going on, the plane had sunk. So it's somewhere at the bottom or in the current of the South China Sea, which is the most guarded, dangerous sea in the ocean. And also, it is a stealth fighter, so it's not really designed to be found. That's kind of the whole key to a stealth fighter. Mm-hmm. And to me, there's something very Catch-22 or Doctor Strangelove about this military sort of farce where they've engineered this thing to be as hard to find as possible, but then they've lost it.
Whoops.
Yeah, which is kind of comical because you have the idea of certain branches of the military working against itself. Mm-hmm. There was a couple of injuries, so 6 people plus the pilot got injured, but nobody died.
That's amazing, honestly.
It is pretty amazing. I don't know how that exactly worked. But imagining $100 million aircraft sliding off the edge of the carrier into the ocean and sinking in the middle of the South China Sea.
My question is does the pilot get in trouble for that?
He has to. I would assume you have to get in trouble for that.
That's a lot of money to just send off the side of a boat.
But I mean, maybe it was a mechanical malfunction. It wasn't his fault.
That's true. I guess it could have been.
Yeah.
But then that makes me question the assembly of this super stealth top secret.
It's $100 million, and just watching that sink in the ocean must have been
there was footage feeling. There was video footage of the stealth fighter crashing into the aircraft carrier, and then there's an photo from the side of the ship of the plane
sitting in the ocean,
sinking
with no pilot in it, just
the ocean,
sitting. And there's another level. There's a few levels of irony here, because another level is how do we know about this? How did that end up in the news? And I saw a captain of the Navy on the news saying this is the Navy's worldwide #1 priority is getting this
That was my
fighter back.
That was my first question, because they kept referring to it as super top secret.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why do I know about this?
Yeah, why is this
nobody.
on the news?
Like,
exactly.
Why is this on the news if it's super top secret?
So it's ironic that a super top secret thing made it on the news. It's ironic that it was stealth, so you're not supposed to see it, and that's part of why they can't find it.
Like, it's in there somewhere.
And it's also ironic that nobody died, but they can't get the plane back, even though they kind of know where it is, but not really.
Yeah.
And
they don't want China to get it, obviously.
I think it would be really funny if it washed ashore on some like one of those like really remote islands where they don't have any technology.
Like tribal people.
Yeah, and they end up like incorporating it into their huts and like making a little shrine out of it, and like they're tanning hides inside of the fuselage and everything. And then
finally the US military rolls up to collect their belongings.
And we're just like, they can have it, I guess.
They look around and they're like,
yeah.
Do we take it?
Yeah, dude's got his goat tied to like a titanium ring worth $1 million. But it's this dude's goat tie down now.
Yeah.
And that's just where we're at.
Right.
So I don't know. I thought there was like levels of funny stuff. And I feel like somebody who was one of those military farce writers, especially there was a lot of those in like the 60s and 70s, would have found what's happening now with that jet.
Oh, yeah.
Very,
sure.
very funny. There's levels of irony there that just struck me this week. So that was our first of our hilarious, humorous headlines.
So the headline that I found this week also came from CNN.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, "The ultimate rebuttal. West Virginia governor hoists dog's derriere in cheeky response to critics."
And is rebuttal like a pun?
Yes.
Yeah, rebuttal.
And there's a picture of Governor Jim Justice holding his dog's butt in the air.
Holding his dog's butt in the air.
Yeah.
He's at like a podium too? Like
Yes.
he had to hoist it above the podium for you to
Yes.
see this dog's ass.
Correct. And so naturally,
What
that got
kind
my
of-
attention.
That is a hell of a headline.
Yeah, so I was like, what? Excuse me? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
So back in December, Bette Midler, the actress,
Yes.
singer, beautiful woman,
Yeah, she's great.
lashed out at West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin after Senator Manchin refused to vote in support of the Biden's Build Back Better.
Yeah, everyone's
spending
mad
plan.
at him.
Yeah, he's kind of in deep doo with the Democrats. So she went to Twitter and she tweets out, "What Joe Manchin, who represents a population smaller than Brooklyn, has done to the rest of America who wants to move forward, not backward, like his state, is horrible."
Yeah, that is good. Burn. Take that, Joe Manchin.
She then followed up with another tweet and said, "He sold us out. He wants us all to be just like his state, West Virginia. Poor, illiterate, and strung out."
Ooh. I don't know. You don't want to alienate the entire state like that, Bet.
Did not go well.
Yeah.
People were pretty mad about that. She did issue an apology to the good people of West Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But the damage had already been done. Like, those words were out there.
Uh-huh.
And so this week, the governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice, fired back at Midler in the closing of his annual State of the State address.
Oh, so he was doing his formal State of the State.
That is a formal, like every governor does the state address. So in his closing remarks, he said too many people were doubting West Virginia.
Well.
And then he picks up his bulldog, which was there with him.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, why was the bulldog there?
Apparently, he takes his bulldog like everywhere he goes.
He just takes the dog.
It's part
with
of
him.
it's a duo.
Yeah, it just comes. He comes with the territory.
It's a stunt thing. He does it all the time.
I wonder if when they elected him, they were aware that they were also electing his dog.
I don't know. Did he run with his dog?
I mean, in some ways, I would like that my politicians to do that, to have their pets. I mean, another headline this week was Joe Biden got himself a cat.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine he probably did, because from what I read, the governor of West Virginia takes his bulldog everywhere.
So his dog was beside him while he's doing the State of the State
so he's
address.
giving this formal state address.
And at the end of it, he starts thinking, fucking Bette Midler.
Yeah, he starts ruminating on
that bitch.
The words of Bette Midler.
Yeah.
And he picks up he picks up his bulldog named Baby Dog.
Baby Dog.
Baby Dog. And he pointed the dog's butt towards the cameras. And he said, "Baby Dog tells Bette Midler and all those out there, kiss her hiney.
Her hiney. My goodness.
So the governor of West Virginia, during his formal state address, picks up his dog, points its butt to the cameras, and tells Bette Midler to kiss his dog's ass.
I mean, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
If he wasn't a fucking Republican, I would think that was hilarious.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So that happened. So, of course, people there thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So they're like laughing and cheering. But it should be noted that this was a formal address. So the people in attendance included people like West Virginia lawmakers, state Supreme Court justices, and his special guests of the governor, including members of a high school girls basketball team.
Oh, the high school girls are like, is this what politics is? Just like dog anuses?
He's their coach, by the way.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that happened.
Wow.
And the next day,
unbelievable.
Bette Midler retweeted a picture of the stunt with the caption, quote, "Here we can see a dog's asshole. Right next to it is the butt of Jim Justice's dog."
Oh, that's actually pretty clever. Props to her on that one for being witty about it.
Then she tweeted, "Here are the state rankings of all the areas and agencies for which the so-called governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice, is responsible. Judging from these rankings, I'd say his dog's ass would make a better governor than him."
Ooh. She likes to come at you with the duo. She
had toe-to-toe.
She tweets once and it does well, and she's like, "Oh, I got more. There's more where that came from."
Like, "Don't you worry, I got this."
I kind of want to start following her on Twitter.
Right?
She is spicy.
And those rankings that she included were legit. They were things like West Virginia's shitty scores in healthcare and education. And overall, like the state's like overall score, which by the way is 47 out of 50.
Ooh.
So
yeah, not great.
Yeah,
you're beating Mississippi and like Arkansas.
Maybe. I don't know. So that happened this week. Go Bette Midler. Who knows? I had no idea she was such a
I
fiery,
didn't either.
kind of trolly.
Follow her on Twitter. That's pretty great. That's a good headline.
And fact, just a reminder, so Justice is a Republican, but he wasn't always.
Oh, well,
he was elected as a Democrat in West Virginia.
He switched parties. That's right.
He switched parties in 2017 after he was elected as a Democrat.
I remember. Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
He hopped on that Trump train and he's still riding it. With his dog, with his baby dog.
Baby dog and her butt.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's interesting that you would mention a governor and also go back to 2016 and 2017, because my next headline does the exact same thing, but the governor from a different state, our beloved North Carolina.
Oh, no.
You might know where this is going if you're from here, but if you're not, I would like to talk about, before I get to the actual headline, I would like to talk about who Pat McCrory is, because there's a little context here. So Pat McCrory was the governor of North Carolina until 2016, when he lost his reelection bid in the middle of the state going for Trump. The Republicans actually kind of wrecked shop in North Carolina and took pretty much everything, except they lost the governorship. And now you might be thinking, well, that's weird. How did that happen?
How do Republicans take every other seat in the state except the governor's seat?
If all those Republicans were voting, that means some of them were like, I voted for Republicans on everything, but fuck that Pat McCrory guy, which is weird. How did that happen? And the reason that happened is because he started a bill that was called HB2, also known as the bathroom bill, that was going to do some kind of thing with you had to use the bathroom with the sex you were assigned at birth. And not by your identity, which begged the question of like, how would you police that? It didn't make any sense.
It did not go over well, and part of it was because it was like, well, who's going to enforce that?
Yeah,
and who's like, how do you have somebody standing at the bathroom door,
right,
in every public place who's going to inspect the genitals of the person going in?
Exactly, and it made a bunch of businesses and events that were being planned in North Carolina, get canceled. And as opposed to like realizing that was a stupid thing, he just stood by it.
Oh, he doubled down.
He dug way in. He trumped on it and was just like, no, I'm digging into this bathroom thing, to the point where it was such a thing in North Carolina where for Halloween that year, I actually dressed up as Pat McCrory. And I had like the suit on, like just a regular business suit. But then when I opened the blazer, I had a t-shirt that said North Carolina Official State Genital Inspector. Pat McCrory. And I just sort of like, we went out to bars and I would just like hang out next to the bathrooms in the bars. And people would read my shirt and be like, dude, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That
happened.
It was, because I mean, he basically wanted to look at everybody's genitals in the state.
He wanted to check your junk.
To make sure.
Our governor was obsessed with people's business.
And a lot of people don't know this, but they did estimate how much money that cost North Carolina.
I know it was a lot.
The estimations, what would you guess?
Probably like millions.
Yeah, you're gonna be shocked. The estimations are $450 to $630 million.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, because I remember I think like there was some kind of NBA thing that they canceled, pulled out, numerous concerts, musicians. This was obviously pre-pandemic. They canceled their shows in North Carolina. Like there was a huge, and I think wasn't there like Amazon or some big distributor who was like, no, we're not going to set up shop. They had already gotten the contract signed to open a facility in North Carolina, and they backed out.
They backed out because of it. Yeah, here's a few things that happened. These are all amounts of money that was lost by the venue when the cancellations happened. So Bruce Springsteen canceled. That's $100,000. Cirque du Soleil is $68,000. The band Boston's $20,000. $72,000 for the ACC swimming and diving championships. And $493,000 for the NCAA men's basketball regional tournament.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that was the amounts of money that was lost to the venue. Now, if you add in the tourism just for the men's ACC tournament alone,
because you have to think all the people traveling to attend those events who would have stayed in hotels, eaten at restaurants.
Yeah, just that alone is $14 million. That's $14 million worth of lost.
Yeah.
So you could see how it could add up to $450 million after all the things that they canceled. So he is not have a good legacy in our state.
No, and like you said, rather than going, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, he doubled down.
He did.
He went, oh, it's a good idea.
Yeah, and so, and he tried to, like, they literally had to physically remove him from office.
Had to carry him out of the
governor's
office.
Because he didn't want to leave.
When Cooper was instated, like put into office, because Cooper replaced him.
So now he's running for Senate in North Carolina because I guess he thinks his reputation here is still intact.
Maybe he
somehow.
thinks we forgot.
You'll from this headline you'll understand how delusional this guy is. So the headline that I read this week said from CNN, Pat McCrory compared his not getting a job at Duke University to 1960s segregation.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So basically the story boils down to Pat McCrory thinks that he's entitled to a job at Duke University because a lot of the other governors of North Carolina have had jobs at Duke University. So I guess he thinks it's like in the contract.
Was there a job open, or did he just show up and say, hey, give me a job?
So according to him, he says they offered him a job and then people protested and they rescinded the offer.
Oh.
According to Duke, he just assumed he had a job. And then when they were like, no, dude, we're not going to offer you a job, he was like, you're rescinding my offer? This is like segregation. So
there's a good possibility then that there never was a job in the first place.
Yeah, he could be making it all up.
He showed up, knocked on the door, and said, hey, give me a job, you asshole.
Yeah, I mean, Duke is saying, like, I don't know what he's talking about. We don't just automatically give jobs to governors.
Right.
So, I don't know. They're like, we're not going to comment any further.
And so when that happened then, though, the point is that he then said that he was experiencing oppression, segregation.
Basically. And the weird thing about this is, so because he's running for governor,
senator, you mean?
I mean senator, because after he lost governor and he's now running for senator, people have been looking into like what he was doing while he wasn't working at Duke after he was governor, right? And what he was doing is he got a job as a local radio show host.
Oh no.
And so he hosts a radio show where he can talk about whatever. But apparently nobody really listens to the show. It doesn't have a lot of listeners because as I pointed out, nobody likes him in this state.
Like either side. They don't like him.
He's alienated everyone.
Yeah.
And so what's funny is that now that he's running for Senate, they're going back and listening to the show.
Oh no!
And finding things that nobody noticed that he'd said because no one cared.
Because no one was listening.
Because he wasn't running for Senate, he just was a disgraced governor. So they found these quotes from January 2021 on his radio show, and it's just now kind of coming to light because no one paid any attention until now. And he said, the head of policy school called me up and said, Governor, we've got some problems. We've got some alumni and big donors that don't want you to come back to Duke to be a part of the public policy school. He said, you know what I said to him? I said, if I come back to the campus, will you serve me at the lunch counter? And I meant it. Speaking about the ultimate blacklisting was the African-American students from North Carolina A&T University who wanted to eat their lunch at the counter at Woolworths, the lunch counter, and they refused
that's
them.
Famous. That's like, you can see pictures and history books.
They were blacklisted because of the color of their skin, added McCrory. Other people are now being blacklisted because of our politics, and it's both wrong, it's both deplorable, and we've got to speak out against it.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No.
That is a quote from that guy.
It is not the same thing.
I know. And did you notice the grammar? He said, and it's both wrong, it's both deplorable, which is, he threw in deplorable, which you know why he did that.
That was a dig at Hillary.
And also the grammar on that is terrible. It's both wrong, it's both deplorable. I talk like mutant man. Let me see your genital. Let me see your genital. Like, he sounds like a moron.
Because he is.
Yeah, and so he's wrong about all the governors getting jobs at Duke. That's just some shit he made up.
Yeah, go do a fact check on his statements there.
And what's also funny is that he's basically admitting that, like, in his version of events, he's admitting that students and staff were protesting him working there. And that's why they rescinded the job offer, which begs the question of, like, dude, so you know people were protesting you working there, and you're still
still want to work there?
And you're still mad about them not giving you a job?
I don't know about you, but I don't want to work anywhere where people are like actively protesting against me.
If I went to go get a job at McDonald's and they were forming fucking picket lines outside being like, don't hire Jason, the guy wants to look at our junk, I would not want to work there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So that story's just weird.
So it sounds like there was maybe a job, or maybe he had a conversation with a higher up in the policy department.
Who knows?
But then once word got out, alumni and the higher ups were like, no way.
Well, when CNN asked the school about it, they were like, basically, we never offered him a job. I don't know.
It's probably true. That's probably true. I bet it never got off the ground.
Yeah.
Like, I've got my little HR hat on here. I bet it never got off the ground. It probably only happened in conversation.
Yeah.
So there probably was nothing formal done in the sense of like creating a job and a job description and all the things that go along with that, position. But because it couldn't get off the ground, because as soon as somebody mentioned it, it got out and everybody lost their minds and was like, no way.
Yeah.
Do not bring that asshole in here.
It just seems such a strange
argument. But your point is still valid.
Yeah.
Who wants to work at a place where everybody hates you?
Exactly. And also, what makes you think you're entitled to a job because you were a disgraced governor?
Yes. And also, since when is being told no for a job the same thing as being blacklisted?
Yeah.
Like the young black men from the college who wanted to eat lunch at Woolworths.
I have no idea.
It's not the same.
What kind of crazy universe his brain is in, but if he's on some kind of drugs, I want to know what kind they are, and I'll have what he's having. We'll put it that way.
Full on delusional.
Yeah, whatever makes you think that is the route to go to get elected to Senate. I would love to have whatever kind of makes you that delusional, because holy crap. I also think it's really funny that nobody's listening. This is some shit he said a year ago, but just nobody cared until
it was on his show a year ago.
Yeah, but nobody.
But no one listens.
Because who would listen to that? Because no one in the state likes him, like, at all. I know I've known Republicans that just hate that man.
Yep.
So that's a pretty funny news story. And I have to say, overall, the headline just sort of cracked me up. I also have here a couple of honorable mentions, a couple of headlines that I read this week that I thought those headlines are funny by themselves, but there's not really a whole story there. So this one says, bridge in Pittsburgh collapses hours before scheduled Biden visit to talk infrastructure. So Joe Biden's on his bus or on his Air Force One or helicopter or whatever on his way to Pittsburgh, and he's like, we're going to talk infrastructure. How am I going to get them to think that infrastructure is important?
And then this gigantic ass bridge
just collapses in Pittsburgh.
Thankfully, no one was killed.
Somehow.
Again, kind of like the aircraft carrier. I don't know how somebody wasn't killed.
But nobody was killed. And the whole thing fell apart. It made there was like a bus on the bridge that looked tiny, like a Lego bus.
Yes.
This thing was so massive and fell apart. And I think it's kind of funny that Biden was on his way there to talk about infrastructure.
Yep.
And then there's been some icy weather. We actually got some snow here where we're at. We're snowed in right now. Mm-hmm. And the snow was all up and down the East Coast. And so you get this headline. Frozen iguanas could fall from trees due to cold temperatures in Florida, Weather Center warns. So in Florida...
So the rest of the country, when the Weather Channel or the weather people issue those warnings and advisories about slippery roads, being on the lookout.
In Florida, it's iguanas might fall from the trees.
Yes, in Florida, they issue a winter warning. Look out.
Falling frozen iguanas.
Heads up.
Yeah. That was a headline from today.
Yeah.
That was a headline from this morning. And this just goes to show, I think things in life, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but they like happen in batches, like groups of things. And the theme for my existence for this last week was just like, look at these headlines.
It was just like, read this.
Yeah. And I just see so much in them. And it was a very funny experience. Being alive this week in the world was a funny experience. And you and I had a lot of great laughs at the expense of the headlines from this week. And we wanted to share that with all y'all out there in the snow globe. But if you want to hear other hilarious headlines that Amanda and I rip apart and laugh at, you can find those on our website,
carolinasnowflakes.com.
We also have a Facebook where we rip on headlines all the time.
Facebook.com/Carolina Snowflakes.
And if you want to offer me a job writing for The Onion because I'm so clever and know good, funny headlines so well, you can send that to our email.
carolinasnowflakes@gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Thanks for listening. Bye.